Hey everybody, Doug here from 2 Plus Tough, and I thought we would talk about the news. There's some big news going on today. If you haven't seen it, it just went live on the Warhammer community main page, and I have my chat pulled up here on the right. So if you haven't seen one of these, we haven't actually had them in a while because I feel like they haven't done a big news dump in some time. And so what I do is I call these the preview review, where we just basically pick apart all the cool stuff that they have talked about that's coming and get excited for it and just kind of have some thoughts and that kind of stuff. So if you go to the community page, go to here, and this isn't going to be a super in-depth video, but I like to just keep people in the loop. I've gotten multiple calls from folks who say like, they're driving and that kind of stuff. They can't keep up with the news, so we make a video about it. So today's preview review is Star Lizards and Start Collecting Boxes. So I see the chat's filling up. Let me know if you can hear and see me okay. You should be able to see everything on the screen. Yep, there it is. Awesome stuff. So, kicking it off with the big reveal here. This is the new thing they've been doing where it's this week, where basically they have, is it Nick and the other guy? Yeah, Nick and Eddie talk about what's coming up. I like the format. It's very clean and clear, and it gets you excited for stuff. Now, moving on to the main event. I'm not going to play it. I want you to watch this on your own. It's just, there's nothing to it. There's no reveals on like that. It's just really funny. Moving into everyone's favorite lizards are getting a new book, War Scroll cards, and a new scenery piece to bring the army into line with the recent crop of battle tomes. It's exactly what we wanted. Battle Tome Seraphon is an essential guide for fans of these star-faring lizards. The book finally settles the debate. Are they funky ghosts or even funkier reptilian people? The background explores the differences between various groups of Seraphon and gives hobbyists ideas for a range of color schemes. So they are aware of the lore confusion, right? And I think maybe that's why they took so long for this book to come. I don't know, but that's really good that up front, they're just like, we understand that was a problem. It says here, you also find loads of new rules, opening up new tactical army building options. You've waited long for an update, and your patience will soon be rewarded. Pre-order this 100. Yeah, and it tells you how to pre-order. And you get a fancy-looking battle tome with some cool artwork. If you are super into it, you can get the collector's edition. I've never gotten a collector's edition. That's just mainly because I army swap like I breathe, so... let's see. Scenery kit. So their scenery kit is that giant Aztec-looking temple. I'm glad they're doubling down on that aesthetic. Since crossing, the Rubicon to Age of Sigmar. The Realm Shaper engine. These ziggurats harness mystical energy to reshape reality itself into a form more pleasing to the Slann Star Masters. This is represented in-game by turning terrain features into deadly traps for the enemies of the Seraphon. And so it is this big honkin' temple. We see some skinks near it. It doesn't look as imposing as if you've ever seen the Ossiarch Bone Reaper piece of terrain. That thing is truly massive, to the point where it's kind of annoying when you're doing like events and that kind of thing. So I'm thinking bigger footprint than the Herdstone for sure, but I don't think it's quite that. Problem with the Ossiarch Bone Reaper one is that it also has like spires on each corner, which then extend it out another inch. This isn't quite that big, but I'm very excited for it. It does seem to be quite tall. If you were to stack some of these skink star priests on top of each other to get that height, it does seem like it goes up, so that's cool. Let's see. Top of the pyramid is dominated by a floating orb of power, surrounded by crackling arcs of energy, holding aloft a ring of carved stone. Each side of this piece is reversible, so you can choose to build it as a fresh, clean ziggurat, or one has begun the process of manifesting the jungle that will eventually surround and reclaim it. That is very interesting. So, yeah, you can build it as a clean slate or have the jungle stuff growing around it. So I guess the idea is they'll plant a ziggurat and it starts to manifest what they like, which of course it looks like they're going back to Aztec jungle-y theme was kind of my thought. I like terrain pieces that interact with other terrain pieces, if that makes sense. I just like it. You can garrison this pyramid with your Seraphon. I haven't seen a lot of people garrison stuff outside of Carriage and Overlords now. A wizard or priest is able to activate the Dread device to whip the surrounding terrain features into violent life. It's a really thematic, entertaining ability that you'll love unleashing on the tabletop. So, that sounds rad. I wouldn't be surprised if it was like, pick pieces of terrain and so much mortal wounds happens to enemy units nearby, that kind of stuff. I really do dig it. Let's see. Of course, they get cards and tokens. Side note, if you have any interest in ever playing this army in the future, buy these, even if you don't buy anything else, because these are always limited. Just throwing that out there. And it says, what Seraphon fan doesn't love skinks? Lucky for you, one of the 3 new Start Collecting boxes includes loads of them. In Start Collecting Skinks, you'll get a Star Priest, a cool dozen skinks on foot, and a few Pterodon riders that are, of course, skinks. And a mighty Bastillodon with, you guessed it, a bunch of skinks crawling around the back. So, take a look at this real quick. And sure enough, it is, if you're going to build a Seraphon army, well, put an asterisk next to this statement. This, up till this point, has been a fantastic set of models. Skinks are great because they can bow out of combat and just be harassers. The 3 flying units are, there's different ways to build them. And I'm sure, I have zero doubt that they're going to be revised quite a bit because of some weird things that they can do right now with the old book. So, I mean, as it stands right now, if this book wasn't coming, I'd be like, this is an incredible buy. Buy multiples. So, keep that in mind. We don't quite know how it's going to roll out, like how effective these units are going to be. But in terms of just how cool they are, I love it. I love this. The skinks are fun. I prefer Saurus stuff because I like the big tanky thing. But all in all, it seems like a cool set. Now, what I want to do is just chat about the Seraphon stuff before we move into the other big announcements. As far as the book goes, go ahead and leave your thoughts in the comments. I'll keep an eye on the chat to the right there. My first thought is I'm very encouraged by the fact that they have acknowledged the fact that the lore was rough. They're never going to say like, hey guys, we messed up, but acknowledging the debate and the confusion surrounding their background is a legitimate thing. I mean, that's the closest you're going to get to, all right, we get it. So as far as the new models, which I just saw, I believe it's Orochi Samurai, said, it's tough. Like, how do I word this? I feel like if Skaven didn't get new models, because some of their stuff is still metal, but they refuse to retire them because they've made plastic kits exclusive to some boxes way back in the past, so people have an abundance of stuff, but they don't want to get rid of it, which is annoying. The fact is, like, Seraphon, as of right now, has a really remarkable, in terms of its size and the amount of different kinds of units you can take, it's one of the bigger factions, just straight up. I mean, it always was, because they didn't get split into skinks and Saurus and all that kind of stuff. Now, as far as new models go, people have their opinions, and it's so subjective. I don't really care for the mounts, which is actually handy right there on the screen. Don't care so much for them, but I don't mind the Saurus warriors, and I understand that people don't like them. But when you think about the other stuff in the range, I think they're awesome. Like in terms of the Pterodon riders and the big monsters, the Carnosaurs, this range has a lot going for it. What I'd like to see in the future is, frankly, more boxes like the Chaos Warriors. If you guys have seen that one where it really is, it's a hero on a new mount with 5 knights and like 10 dudes, right? And that's all it is. But all it does is replace or update some of those existing sculpts. So that exact box, give me a new Slann Starmaster. That's the mount thing. 5 Saurus riders and then Saurus warriors, and then boom. Like, that would be perfect. And then, and that can come in its own time, but I think that would go a long way. Because outside of the Saurus stuff, someone please tell me, because it is such a big range, I forget, what other models do people really think look terrible? I've only ever heard complaints about the Saurus stuff. People don't like Finecast and that kind of, whatever, put that to the side. But in terms of like their sheer aesthetic, I don't hear much outside of the Saurus Warrior. So that kind of box is what I'm getting at. It would not be hard for them to do, and it would go a long way. Croxagores. Yeah, I have heard about Croxagores. I'm sorry about that. Yeah. I got Lore Master Sotek in the chat. Let's see. So, if anyone has any more thoughts on the Seraphon thing, I'm very interested to see the Realm Shaper engine in action. And the reason is because, like, whenever we get these terrain pieces for any army, you don't just get the terrain piece. You usually get like a command ability or something that lets you interact with it. So for example, like in Nurgle, it's like you can treat, pick a piece of terrain on the table. You can treat it like it's an infected wood. You don't get the run and charge thing, but it can hurt enemies nearby, that kind of stuff. I like that kind of stuff. And so I'm curious to see not only what this specifically does, but also how the army interacts with it. So, Mr. Spider, I quite like Croxagore. Yeah, that's the thing. All of this is 100% subjective. I like the Saurus Warriors. I like them. Well, I like the Saurus part of the mount. I don't like the raptor that he's riding because it looks too blocky. But that's it. That's the thing. Nobody's wrong. Nobody's right. My point was simply that it wouldn't take much to update the faction, and they've already done it with the Chaos Warriors. So yeah. Moving on, the fact that they made this. It says here it's reversible, and so you can have these tiles be super clean, which is like, what? That's awesome. I like that quite a bit. So I'm assuming like this is an example of it depends on how it's put together, but I'm curious to see how that works. I've never seen a reversible model where it's printed in such a way that it can be, I mean, there's multi-kits, but that's not the same thing as literally like raincoat reversible. That's funny. So I'm going to move on. Again, when I do these little preview reviews, it's not an in-depth thing. I do think, obviously new books coming, take it with a grain of salt, but these are some really cool looking models. The skinks hold up. They aged really well. The skink Star Priest or Star Master, whatever it is really cool. You can do some fun colors there. The Bastiladon, it is a multi-kit. You can either do this giant jewel laser that he shoots, or a bucket of snakes. A KFC bucket full of snakes you can just barf. And then obviously, the Pterodon riders are a multi-kit as well. But I've never seen anyone take the other ones. I don't know anything about them, to be perfectly honest with you. I do know that both me and Jack have had our worlds rocked by a local player who basically there's an old battalion that includes, I think he takes 15 total, like in different units of these blue Pterodon riders, and just there's a battalion that ignores a lot of the modern rules because it's so outdated, and he sweeps up. Like, we both had games where we didn't kill a single thing in his army. It's been miserable. So I'm excited for that. Jack says 21 total. Yes, that's right. It was 21. So, I'm just going to be waiting with bated breath because when his new book comes out and that gets taken away, Doug will be there to buy them up. That guy turns through armies like I do, so we play off each other. Shadow Strike Battalion for Seraphon. Thank you. So the next big news is that there are 2 additional Star Collecting boxes coming out. I need to redo my Star Collecting box series now that I think about it, because we got some cool updates here. This is the Daughters of Khaine box. It comes with, this is a multi-kit, but these are the Melusai with bows. You have what is basically just the one kit of the Cauldron, which comes with a lot of hero and build variations, sorry. And then you have Rio de Janeiro, Jesus Christ, Khaine over here in the back left. And what you can do with this, I'm going to be honest with you. Okay? Hashtag real talk here. I don't really care for this kit because I don't, there are some armies that are really hard to get into. Okay, Skaven's one of them. If you want to go see a great discussion about this, Warhammer Weekly did a thing where they were talking about, getting new players in, best and worst armies to start. In my opinion, Daughters of Khaine is one of the worst. And in terms of all your leaders come from a singular kit. That kit being the Cauldron of Blood, right? The 1, 2, if I'm not mistaken, 3 different hero options. Oh, 4, because Jesus over there is in that box too. So there's a lot of ways to build it, but I don't know. I don't particularly care for it, because here's the thing. I imagine someone walking into the store. Ooh, the Grizzly. Hey man, long time watcher. Love your lore videos and hobby hangouts. I'm renovating my basement to start battle reports. That's awesome. What's your favorite starter box? Flesh Eater Quartz, Maggotkin, and Pestilence. If you want to play Pestilence for Skaven, are the best ones, because you can just buy 4 of those boxes and have an army, and it's really cool. I like that. Which actually, thank you, the Grizzly, for both your donation. That's incredible. Thank you so much. But also for the setup for my next point about the Daughters of Khaine box. Boxes that don't have any kind of rebuyability, I don't really care for. And I know that having 2 cauldrons is not a bad idea. You would also get a bunch of... which Maggotkin? The Mortal one, sorry. The other one says Demons of Nurgle. Sorry, the Mortal Maggotkin I think is a great one. I bought like 3 of those to do my Maggotkin army, and I'm loving it. But this one, you have your heroes, but then really what it is, it's 2 kits. It is the Cauldron, and it is the Melusai. But if someone walks into a store, and they look at this box, and they say, wow, Super Slaughter, Bikini Babes, and Rio de Janeiro Jesus in the left. I'm going to keep calling him that because he's like the avatar of Khaine, but he's like a statue. He doesn't really do much until you pray to make him move. They see this box, like, I want to get that. So they buy it. And that's awesome. That's the intended purpose of a start collecting box, is you literally start your collection. The problem is that second step of going from this box to literally anything else in this faction is a steep cliff drop off, because you have what is functionally a horde army with a $60 per 10 model thing, and I can't. I don't like that. Yeah. So I don't know. It's kind of everywhere for me. I understand why they do it, mainly because they needed to find some way to make the cauldron a better value, and honestly, like. If they had said this isn't a start collecting box, this is the Cauldron Guard, where it's like literally just the cauldron and a unit, I'd be like, okay, that's an interesting supplement thing, but I don't particularly care for it as a starting point. I don't know. What I'd really like for them to do is sell alternate sculpts of these heroes individually, so that you can have a separate Hag Queen, a separate, that kind of stuff, and so that way people they don't have to buy this huge centerpiece thing that is both intimidating to new people, and it's a steep curve. So anyway, that is my thoughts. And the last one here is the Gloomspite Gitz Star Collecting Box. And this one really took me by surprise. I was thinking about this, and first of all, anything with Gloomspite is just fun. Like, they're just the fun army. I stand by that. I like the fact that it comes with all new models. That's crazy cool. The Trogs, I've heard mixed reviews on. Can someone tell me in the chat, can the Squig herds be battle line? I don't actually remember. I don't have my book near me or anywhere near me right now. I loaned it to a friend. Anyway, tell me in the chat. But I like boxes that come with, yes, there is, okay, sweet. So I was going to say, like, a box that doesn't come with battle line is not a good start collecting box. So this is great. It comes with a battle line option, and obviously the Trogs can be battle line if you have the big Trog hero. Squeak Hurts can be battle line. Squeak Hurts, yeah, okay. I was like, I'm not making any squeaking sounds. I'm so sorry. The Loon Boss is a cool little dude. It's one of those things. It's actually reminiscent of the Seraphon thing to me, where there's so many options in this army because it is those 3 factions kind of jammed together. No single start collecting box they're going to make is going to truly encapsulate all of Gloomspite Gitz, right? You kind of have some themes here with what we're going to call Night Goblins, right? Moon Clan with the Herder and the Loon Boss. And you have some Squigs, which is definitely a huge part of it. There's not a single spider thing. And you have your base unit of Trogs. or Troggoths. And so it's a tough army to try and create a starting point with just one box. Like, I would have loved if it was start collecting Troggoths and it was maybe, I don't know, a unit of these guys, something to run at their feet, and the big Trog boss who makes them battle line. I would have loved a box that is, start collecting Squigalanch or something like that. There's a bunch of the mounts, or, I think the army is so big it has to be broken up. And so I was kind of down on it at first, but then I remembered, if you guys have not seen it, if you look at the Warcry page, they've actually started making army boxes from existing armies for Warcry. So there is a Gloomspite Gitz box that has a good mix of squigs and dudes on foot and squig riders and that kind of stuff, where if you were to buy this plus that, then I think we're cooking with fire, right? Then all of a sudden I think the value increases on both of them. I have no reason to suspect that either of these products are temporary, so I don't see why we would have to worry about that too much. But yeah, so let's see, Elliot, I'll get to your question here in just a hot second. Thanks for joining us. So does anyone have any more thoughts on the Gloomspite Gitz Star Collecting box? I think it's cool. Like, I love all the models that came. The fact that they're all new is rad. If someone were to buy, would you buy multiple of them? I guess if you really wanted to focus on those units, like if they appeal to you, which they certainly do, they're visually very striking. Totally. Buy multiples of them. But yeah. Let's see. I don't know about that. I'll have to check out the Warcry part. Oh yeah, let's pull it up. Go to Games Workshop. I'll show you what I mean. If you go to Box Games, which is what Warcry is under, I'll go to all, because I don't know if they... Sometimes, I don't know if you guys have noticed this too, but they don't categorize things very quickly. So let's see, there's the Storm... Oh, here we go. Warcry, Gloomspite Gitz. Yeah. So you have a box of the Squig Riders, and it looks like the Sneaky Snufflers. Which, all of those things, they do complement this set really, really well. So, it wasn't quite what I thought it was. But yeah, it's still not a bad buy. And for what, $50? We don't have pricing on the Star Collecting box yet, but it'll probably be somewhere in the 90 range. So, anyway. Yeah, those are kind of my thoughts on there. It's, like I said, it's one of those armies. It's a hard one to do Star Collecting boxes for. Like, the best thing I think is comparison in terms of model ranges, either Cities of Sigmar or Seraphon, both of which now have multiple Star Collecting boxes. There's 2 for Cities of Sigmar. There's now going to be 2 for Seraphon. I think Gloomspite, because of the sheer different types of units in there, would require a second one. And then as far as other stuff in the news, just to wrap it off here, we have Sergeant Ripper Jackson. It's a new exclusive miniature for store openings. I hate store opening exclusive models. I'm just going to throw that out there. I think it is the dumbest idea. I don't know why they do this. Straight up opinion piece. We have, I think, 4 to 5 stores for GW exact stores in my area, and so we were never going to see a new store in the greater Seattle region. It just is what it is. Reroll Once Jack said she can't pick her nose exactly because her hands are beefy, to say the least. Let's see. And then it goes into Black Library novel releases. I believe they're almost all 40K. There's some horror ones coming out. That's 40K. Yep, and that's it. So it's all 40K stuff. Or books specifically that I didn't read up on beforehand. So as far as answering Elliot's question here on the Star Collecting boxes, I'll just put it on one. What I would say the best ones, if you want to buy multiples and get started with an army, competitive army, Flesh Eater Quartz is at the top of the list. Because the learning curve is not super steep, right? You can do really well with a Flesh Eater Quartz army going to any event. You'll probably place middle of the pack until you really, really, really learn it and really learn all your opponent's armies. But for the most part, I think you'll do quite well. Start collecting boxes that are also good values. Let's go check them out. we'll go to the actual start collecting. View all. Beastclaw Raiders is actually not a bad one right now because they're kicking tail. If you just go all in on the Beastclaw part, they've been doing quite well. Flesh Eater Courts, of course. Slaanesh is still really fantastic, and you're going to want the models in here. However, because there's a lot of summoning, it requires a lot from this starting point to really get the most out of them. Other ones that are super good competitive Fire Slayers are incredible. Go buy 3 boxes of these and then a whole bunch more kits and you'll be all set. I don't know much about the other ones. Let's see. I'm trying to think of stuff that people... My metric for if something is competitive, because that's not my jam. All right, I'm not a competitive person, is what are the start collecting boxes I've heard people complain about? Iron Jaws. Iron Jaws is a fantastic box right now because that army is incredible. And every single unit in here you're going to want multiples of. They're all amazing. And those, I think, are the big ones. So, yeah. Ogre, Beastclaw, yep. Deepkin is a nice start collecting box, but 350, 380 points. Yeah, and that's the thing where I like the Magakin box is quite a few points. You know, it gets you close to playing I don't want to say a real army, that's not true, but a full army where you have options and that kind of stuff. The Beastclaw one, didn't the Beastclaw one used to be like almost 1,000 points because it was just so much beef in one package? I thought that was awesome. KO, but that because of battle line problems. Yeah, that's why I didn't mention the KO one. I like start collecting boxes that have a battle line. Skellies can be good. Depends on, again, I was kind of thinking of like, because he's asking about a start collecting box, I'm thinking of like things that can do pretty well fairly quickly. Whereas the skeleton one, I think, requires, you know, you're going to want to buy more skeletons. You're going to want to buy everything else for the army because everything's so cheap. Whereas stuff like the big dragons for the, or Terrorgeist, I should say, for Flesh Eater Courts and some of the other things. Fire Slayers can be pretty pricey points-wise. So there's a whole bunch going on. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. If you have any final questions pertaining to this news announcement, go ahead and throw them in the chat, and we'll go ahead and wrap it up here in just a second. While you're typing in those questions, I will wax poetically. Seraphon is probably like my last frontier in terms of armies that I still really want to paint and haven't done yet. I mentioned that before that... I said it numerous times actually in the live streams and that kind of stuff, that at some point I want to do a Seraphon army. I want to do a really crazy like space theme because I liked space lizards as a theme. I understand that there's probably going to be multiple backgrounds, that some are more terrestrial, some are more alien-like, you know, and then thought forms and that kind of stuff. But I like it quite a bit, and so I wanted to practice like sparkle and galaxy effects, that kind of thing. So it's an army it's on my radar. I want to finish some projects before I dive into something else. Like I want to help my buddy Jack get his Cities of Sigmar army fully painted. I have some Gene Stealer cults here that I'm painting just for funsies to hang out with my buddy Ben. And just, you know, crank out my to-do list a little bit before I start diving in. But things like the star collecting boxes for Skinks and Saurus are a big help when it comes to that. I'm also... I mean, GW hasn't announced that they're sending me an early book yet, but they have pretty consistently. So what I'm strangely interested to see is the paint section for these guys, because they've come a long way with both the kind of paints that they stock, you know, that we have contrast and that kind of stuff, but also the tutorials have come a long way to something like, I think the Tzeentch, Book of Tzeentch one was where I stopped and I was like, this is an incredible painting section. Like, it's really, really educational and good. Got some questions here. Any lore update predictions or hopes? I imagine that they're going to do the same thing or similar to what they did with Beasts of Chaos, where they present multiple origin stories and then let you decide what you like. That's my thought. They could also go the direction of having both be true, that Seraphon maybe start as kind of these thought form energy things, and then the longer they're in the realms, they more solidify and become real. So that would be really cool. Whenever a new book comes out and we know that they're going to change things with the lore, I just have an open mind. You know what I mean? Don't get upset if something is different. They've acknowledged that there's confusion in the only way that they're going to. And so that's basically all it is. You know, that's kind of what I expect, is they're going to solidify things a bit. Any thoughts on where to go after a Demons of Khorne start collecting box? Demons of Khorne. Is it the Goreblade? What is the Mortal Khorne one called now? Start collecting Bloodbound Goreblade Warband. This is a fantastic box because you get yourself a Blood Secretor, and he can give all your demons +1 attack. Korgus Cole, not Korgus Cole, but is a pretty cool guy. That kind of stuff. That's probably what I would do next. Depends on if you just want to focus on demons. Let's see. Any chance of the new models beyond the terrain piece? Nope. They would have said so. Said in the preview that dreams are now turned into solid living forms. Yeah, okay. I must have missed that part. I was reading through it. What did I say? Battletome Seraphon is an essential guide for Starfaring lizards. This book settles the debate. Are they funky space ghosts or even funkier reptilian people? The background explores the difference between various groups of Seraphon. It means, to me, that means there's going to be both. Dying to see the lore videos you're going to do. Okay, well, thank you all so much. Sweet. Okay, friends, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the stream here because you're asking questions that I don't know the answers to and that are less relevant to these things. Thank you all so much for watching and hanging out with me. What I will say is I'm very excited for this book, like just in general. And if I do get a copy, you know, unless the lore... I might do... I'm certainly going to do lore videos for the Seraphon, no question. My question is that if they don't change the lore for the specific units, those videos will age just fine. And usually that's what it is. They do a few videos, a few updates to like the overall lore for an army, but then the units are kind of the same because honestly, unit entry lore is kind of boring for the most part. There's very few units that are individually depart from their army interesting. So we'll definitely do some Seraphon videos. I'm probably expecting at least 3, right? Your core army stuff, and then a few for the sub factions, which I'm sure they're going to get. So anyway, stay tuned for that. I'm very excited. And this week I'm going to be working really hard on cranking out videos for Age of Sigmar. I have 2 videos. I have a Necromunda. I have a Infinity video. I'm very excited about all these games, and I hope that you are enjoying things as well. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will catch you next time. Happy